So I finished reading The Cuckoo's Egg, or Tracking a Spy Through the Maze of Computer Espionage by Cliff Stoll. And honestly, I really liked it. It was a really great story. It definitely is not boring like some technical manual, which I'm fine with those, but this definitely was a story. It had a very nice, well, it's almost like a journal of things that went on in his life, but with mixed in with a bunch of facts and information and his reporting on monitoring a hacker going through his computer networks. Basically, whenever he got the job at, was it Berkeley Labs, I believe? LBL, I believe. He noticed, or actually he was told that there was an accounting error, like a 75-cent accounting error, and so he went through looking through the software, looking for that accounting error, and he found that it didn't look like there was any issues with the actual accounting software itself. Someone else must have been coming in, and so there was a hacker, and then he found the hacker, and he set up like these traps and stuff like that to help monitor the hacker, and he like made it to where his computer network would call him on a pager to let him know when the hacker was on, and then he was like doing traces and stuff like that. All the while, the FBI and the CIA and stuff like that were totally apathetic to all of it, and they did not care. Even whenever he was about to reach the hacker, whenever he was about to fully trace the network across the ocean through like a satellite link and all that stuff, they were still like, it's not in our bailiwick, or that's a new word for me, bailiwick? B-A-I-L-I-W-I-C-K. I never heard of that before. I guess it means like your jurisdiction. But yeah, it's an interesting how there was just a total sense of apathy back then over computer security. And especially how a lot of the companies claimed to be unhackable, and then meanwhile the hackers were getting to the back of their accounts because like they left their guest account open or something like that. There were just no passwords at all. It's insane. And so a lot of the story is him trying to gather information just to get the three-letter agencies to even fucking notice him. And also he's kind of curious about the hacker and whatnot, and the hacker definitely had a lot of ways. Like as soon as they plug up one hole, he would just come out around another way like an hour later or something like that. And so, or well, the next day, I guess. And so yeah, it's kind of interesting. I guess like I have a lot of respect for computer networks, and after rereading this book, I have a lot more respect. But there's one other thing that I noticed from this book. It made me really nostalgic for Silicon Valley, because this, of course, takes place in Oakland, I believe. Well, for the most part, some bits take place in Washington and whatnot. But yeah, it made me really nostalgic for the Bay Area and tech companies and working with technology and stuff. Although, that's a little bit idealistic view, because like whenever I was living up there, it wasn't really all that great, but it was still pretty cool. I don't know. I wrote some notes for this book, so you might want to hear these. There's a few words that I found interesting that I haven't heard before or hadn't heard in a long time. One I hadn't heard in a long time was stodgy. That was on page 271. One other thing was bailiwick. I'd never actually heard of bailiwick before. B-A-I-L-I-W-I-C-K. It's a very odd word. It's like, it's not very often that I come across a word that I can't really figure out, and it's kind of difficult to learn from context. And there's a couple other ones. Oh, the reason why I started writing down a note is because on page 126, he writes down his cookie recipe, and several times throughout the book, he references how he greets people or befriends people by bringing them cookies, his special cookies. And so, if I ever meet Cliff Stoll, I think it'd be cool to make a batch of cookies from his recipe and greet him with them. That might be kind of cool, because like that's his way to greet people, so maybe greet him with his own way. I don't know, that'd be kind of neat. Although I think it'd be kind of cool to meet Cliff Stoll someday, because he's a pretty cool and really interesting person. He has a lot of weird little interests and whatnot. He's also really damn smart too. there's a few phrases that he used in here that I thought were kind of interesting, like Smoley hoax on page 189, and in deep yogurt on page 300. It's like, well, I guess that sounds more interesting and more innocent than saying in deep shit, but I don't know, it's just kind of funny. In deep yogurt, like, oh man, we're in deep yogurt now. I've never heard that before. Although that could just be an antiquated term, like the term peachy creamy. Like, everything's great, everything's peachy creamy. You don't really hear that much anymore, so maybe that could just be like, maybe that was more common back then in the 1980s, but not so now. I don't know. Logic bomb was an interesting word. I don't think I've actually heard a logic bomb before, but honestly, that's a lot cooler sounding than like the word virus or something, a logic bomb, because you know exactly what that means. It's a logical way to destroy a computer with its own logic. Yeah. At the end of the book, so the book mostly focuses on, well, like, it covers a little bit of his personal life, like how he would bike back home, and there would be like a few paragraphs of like his home life, and it painted a really nice picture and really relaxing, and I really liked it. And by the end of the book, him and his girlfriend get married, and I thought that was pretty cool. At the end of the book, I would say like that far in, this bit of it, the past like 30 pages or so, are actually a nice little, I believe it's called the epilogue. Yep, the epilogue. Just want to get my words correct. And it actually kind of starts up a whole second story. So within the book, there's actually two stories. The second one, it's about how it's a little short story about, well, how they get married and whatnot. But also he's woken up in the middle of the night because a computer worm has infested like thousands of computers, and like so everyone's freaking out across the world. And then yeah, there's a little bit of interesting stuff about that too. It's a really nice packed book, and I don't know, it's really nice, and it kind of makes me want to play with Unix again. Probably just play with the Mac, but you know, like, it's kind of interesting. Well, that's pretty much it. I thought it was a really great book. I will definitely read this again sometime. And yeah, this is going to be going into my computery collection. Whereas most of my computery books are more of like kind of dry, kind of just technical manuals. But they're the books that I like reading at because they just make me happy. Like some of them are graphical books from the 80s that have like odd 3D computer graphics in full color and whatnot. And they're so nice to look at. This is definitely one of those books. Well, that's pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you check out this book. Thank you very much for watching. See ya.